Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. My name is Peter Davis and it's my privilege to be your MC for today. We would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Indigenous Australians present today. Thanks today will be given by Barbara Urondis, followed by the Loyal Toast presented by President Chris. Please ensure your glass is charged. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you, Peter. Today we celebrate Rotarians and the work they do to establish and manage projects and activities that reflect Rotary's 7 world areas of focus, being peace and conflict prevention, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development, and environmental sustainability. That's like everything. So as a member of an established modern society where we take these issues for granted, I've been thinking about how lucky we are to have water. Clean water to drink, water to clean, and water to ensure our sanitation is well developed and organised. So in reflection today, I would like to congratulate the Rotarians involved in all projects, and specifically the, I can't pronounce this, the Aguacayan Elementary School in the Philippines, toilet blocks project as featured on this week's bulletin. Imagine living in a village where clean water and sanitation in the form of toilet blocks is not taken for granted. So for good food and good company, let's celebrate our project successes.
Thank you, Barbara. Good afternoon. Rotarians and guests, a toast to Australia and Rotary International. Australia and Rotary International. Please be seated. We will be breaking for lunch and we'll reconvene at 1:10 Thank you. Enjoy your meal and fellowship. Members, visitors and guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our 33rd meeting of this Rotary year and our 5024th meeting, all club, in our 103rd year. It's wonderful to see you all here today and for our special Members' Day, where we showcase club projects and the members leading them, which is often a request from a number of members. They say, well, you know, we want to hear more about the projects. We want to find out a bit more what's going on. So this is a great opportunity. So our guest speakers today, there are several, our project leaders, Rotarians, past President Chris Wong and Robert Fisher, from Give Every Child a Future project, a new member Amit Gill and Tony Battaini from our Arts Committee. We'll be hearing from them later in the program. In the meantime, would you please welcome me in acknowledging and making them welcome. Thank you. As our guests, we have Richard and Trish Parker. Richard will shortly be presented and recognised by our club for his efforts for the community as a Paul Harris Fellow. Please join me in making them both welcome as well. Thank you. Now to our visiting Rotarians and international guests. Antoine Maluli, if you'd like to stand, a guest of Bernie McIntosh. Nushan Angulu, welcome. And we also have from a very famous club, the club that gave, not the club, but the city that gave birth to British railways and in fact railways of the world. From the Rotary Club of Rain Hill, we have Andrew Clark. Welcome. And in fact, with Andrew, what we'll do is we'll exchange banners now. Andrew, welcome. Okay, what we'll do is we'll actually exchange them. There you go. Great. Now, moving on to our next item, the Paul Harris Fellow presentation. So, as we all know, the award was named for Paul Harris, who founded Rotary with 3 of his business associates in Chicago in 1905. The Paul Harris Fellow was established in his honour in 1957 to support humanitarian and education programs of the Rotary Foundation funded, implemented, managed by Rotarians and Rotary clubs around the world. In this tradition of the club, that the naming of a Paul Harris Fellow is based on the contribution of an individual, member and deserving members of the community who have practiced the Rotary motto, service above self. Today we recognise the efforts of Richard Parker as a Paul Harris Fellow. So Richard, what I'll do now, I will read the citation if you'd like to come up here. Richard Parker rejoined Rotary Melbourne on 26 March 2008 with the classification infrastructure projects, having previously been a member of the Rotary Club of Adelaide. Richard grew up in Adelaide and gained an economics degree from the University of Adelaide. He moved to Melbourne via Papua New Guinea and completed a town planning diploma at the University of Melbourne. After an MSc at the London School of Economics, he was appointed as the GM of the New Victorian Urban Land Authority. In 1989, he returned to Adelaide to head the South Australian Housing Trust. Early in the Kennett government years, he became new Chief Executive of the newly formed Melbourne CityLink Authority. Following the completion of the CityLink project, for which we are grateful, he became GM Operations of the Transport Ticketing Authority. Are we grateful for that one? No, certainly. In 2000, his contribution to management of state infrastructure projects was recognised with a Fellow of the Institute of Public Administration, Australia. Richard rowed in the university at Adelaide University and South Australia King's Cup Cruise, and in the mid-90s and successfully returned to the sport at masters level. Richard and his wife Trish have 3 grown-up children and have a farming property at Romsey, where they breed will-to-pole sheep, a special breed which he may tell us about shortly. In the club, Richard has served as Director Administration for President Peter Dakin. He has also been an Around the Bay rider for many years in support of the Smiths Family Learning for Life program. Richard volunteered to mentor senior police in the Victorian Rotary mentoring program, thereby sharing his professional knowledge and experience with future leaders in our community. Ending homelessness in one of our club's key strategic priorities, and Richard took over homelessness management for the club after the Community Welfare Committee committed to early intervention programs. Richard was also involved in the establishment of Ryman in 2021, a fabulous initiative, a multi-club Rotary project providing donated furniture, appliances and homewares to welfare agency clients who've experienced homelessness, domestic violence, incarceration, refugee displacement and other crises. Today, Richard is our conduit to launch Housing, one of the largest inner Melbourne agencies providing housing for crisis and homeless persons, liaising, fostering and finding ways we can support their work. A founding member of the Make a House a Home project for Launch Housing, he has assembled a team of club volunteers to regularly meet to shop for a range of small household goods to supply to newly homed clients, all funded by the club. The joy of receiving these goods is often reported by the agency. With efficiency and purposeful action, Richard, you have made a difference to the lives of many, not just our disadvantaged, but also to their future leaders through your mentoring. We thank you for your service above self and take pride in naming you today a Paul Harris Fellow. Thank you. So a full citation will be published in the bulletin. And now I call on Richard to respond and tell us about our club's work in the area of homelessness.
Thank you very much, Chris, President Chris. It's a great honour to receive this award, and I'm very pleased and proud. It really should go to the whole Maha team. I'm just one, and I'm the sort of coordinator, sheepdog, but there are 8 of us, and I'm going to read out their names, and some of them are here, so you'll have to bear with me. So the others of the team are, firstly, Chris Wong, who provides huge support. I won't go into too much detail because of time, but huge support, and provides the warehouse where we assemble the packs and so on. Trevor Mink, Jim Orchard, Marg Lesser, Deb Yinfu, Sue Smith, and Robin Reid. And we're working on Mary Barry, who has had a role in something slightly different, which I'll come back to. So I'm going to ask you if you would give a quick round of applause to the other 7 members of the team. Now, today I'm going to just say a little about how the project is going, but I'll keep it pretty high level and pretty brief. Firstly, a bit of history. Our Maha project was conceived back in 2017, and funding from the board commenced in 2018. So that was our first year of operations. So we're now in our 7th year of the project, and the board has been really very generous in its support. I haven't got the exact number, but it's something like $60,000 would have been spent over that period on this project. For a project like Maha to continue, it should meet several important criteria. I guess just like any other Rotary project should, but I'm going to just focus on this one. And so today I thought it would be good to just run through what I think those criteria might look like, and maybe there might be some debate if we have time later on. So firstly, the question is, does it still have a moral purpose, and are we meeting a real need? Well, yes, everyone knows that homelessness and housing stress is a massive current issue, and there's no quick fix. But the question is, should we bother? We can only do such a small amount in what is such a big situation at the moment. For my part, the key point is that to be relevant in today's community, service organisations like us really have to try to do something in this space. It's a massive issue, we just can't walk past it. My second criteria is the project deliverable? Can we actually make a difference? Now, because we don't meet and deal with the people who get our boxes, the best people to answer this question are the frontline staff at Launch Housing. There are others, but they're the front line. And when we deliver our box sets to Launch's frontline officers, and we stack our boxes in their corridor or in their meeting rooms, and we chat to the actual social workers and housing workers that work with the clients, we get very positive feedback. In a few weeks' time, the manager of the St Kilda East office, a lady called Shirley Brown, is going to come to one of our meetings for a 5-10 minute presentation, which is just to tell us what it means, what this project means to the lives of someone who have been sleeping rough for months, or in a car, or an abused wife or partner. And when they finally get allocated a basic unit and they get 2 boxes of new but basic homeware to help them set up, she will tell us what their reaction is. And I think that's important that we get that feedback from the actual people that we're going to a lot of trouble to help. A third criteria is, will it attract and keep its volunteers? Does it provide an opportunity for fellowship? This is a key issue. Volunteering these days is a really hard to round people up. We're all busy, and it must be efficient in the use of our time. Pleased to say that with Maha, the process we've got now is pretty streamlined. And we need only about a morning, about a month, every month, or a bit more. We need a morning for our team to assemble at Kmart we use Moonee Ponds Kmart, to purchase, to transport, and pack and deliver our box sets. As to fellowship opportunities then, what could be better than a group of us standing around the truck loading bay in the rain at the back of Kmart waiting for a bloody big semi-trailer to finish unloading? That's fellowship. Trevor, you agree? Actually though, when we've finished packing the boxes, Chris Wong hosts us for a cup of tea and a biscuit at his warehouse. And we sit there in these huge cane chairs that Chris has, that he's imported, and we have a really good chat. Sometimes we have someone from Launch Housing join us, but that's real fellowship. Another criteria is, does this project build community relationships, and does it strengthen Rotary's standing in the community? And that's a hard one for us to judge because we're looking at it from the inside. So one way to assess it is to see the reactions as we rock into Kmart as a bunch of oldies, and we're interacting with the young school leaver, or not far from it, tattooed, Kmart often, there's nothing wrong with that, but Kmart staff or their managers or the staff at Wilson Storage who donate the flat pack boxes. I can tell you they immediately respect our who we are and what Rotary is trying to do, and they go out of their way to help us. Now, Marg can attest to this. She's very good at rounding them up to go find something, because often they're not on the shop floor, and they have to go around the back and look at lists and check their computers and so on. They do it, and they don't do it with anything other than a helpful attitude. And a similar example is Angie, the manager at the Moonee Ponds Kmart, who's facing up. She's got not the normal checkout, but a back checkout and we've got this whole line, a couple of, about several big crate things full of gear, and she's got to put it all through the checkout. But which is a big job, and you've got to be very sharp as to make sure the numbers are right and so on. But she still goes through the convoluted process they've got to maximise the discount we can get by putting the certain things under certain categories. And they go the extra mile. With Launch Housing, Rotary Melbourne have now become a go-to organisation for them and a partner. And so we get asked to do other things increasingly. So when Mary got involved just before Christmas was a good example. We'd had a phone call a couple of weeks before that to say we've got truckloads of toys to get out to our officers particularly for children in their shelters for the domestic violence victims. And it was a big logistical thing they were doing, and we managed to put a team together and we helped them, and we got them delivered out to the from Dandenong to all the other officers that required. So there's a good relationship with Launch, and they're now thinking of us as part of their team, and that's what we should be. The final point I want to make is that being a hands-on organisation, we at Rotary Club of Melbourne have credibility and standing among the many other agencies in the inner city housing sort of policy delivery group, such as Melbourne City Council, The Big Issue, private philanthropics, and there's a whole lot more, many of whom frankly don't do that much. But we are at the table and we have credibility because we do stuff. And that's the point. I think I'll leave it and I'll hand over back to you, Chris, or to Amit. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Chris.
Please take a seat. Great. You can see another worthy recipient, but also as part of a team, and being a typical Rotary member, very humble and gracious to the role that everyone plays, as well as the organisation and its values. So, again, wonderfully deserved. Thank you also to Keith Callanan for his wonderful work in compiling all of our member citations, and there's certainly lots of information and learnings about people's lives that we're constantly passing on. So thank you. Now I'd like to call to the podium past President Mary Barry with a special prompt to action, which she's known for our upcoming evening meeting.
Thank you very much, Chris, and good afternoon, everybody. Now, I'm here to get you to come along to our next fellowship plus volunteer activity, which is very important. We're talking about the Foreign Meal Project. It was commenced in 2017 by the Rotary Club of Canterbury, and its focus is to develop nutritious meal packs to send to countries across the Asia Pacific in particular that experience natural disasters. Dr. Doug Hawley, who was a past president of the Canterbury Club, he designed and formulated the Foreign Meal Packs, and they include a balanced and nutritious blend of carbohydrates, important fats and proteins, together with a sachet of essential vitamins and minerals. And our own Quinn Scalzo, our past president, he provides the nuts and some of the other ingredients to the program. So each year, volunteers from across the Rotary network, from schools, universities, and other associations produce, seal, and box approximately 150,000 meals to be distributed the following year. To date, over 3,000 volunteers from 35 clubs have contributed to this amazing effort. Now, Rotary Melbourne, as you can see, participated for the first time last year, and we want to offer all of you the opportunity to participate again this year in what is an amazing opportunity for everything Richard covered, for fun, for friendship, for volunteering, for doing good, and for helping people around the world. Now, as you can see, we all arrive and we are given funny little hats and funny pairs of matching gloves. So once you look ridiculous, then that's when the fun, the activity, and the fellowship starts. All the ingredients are placed in boxes on a tabletop, and you'll either be a scooper or a sealer. So if you're a scooper, you stand in line, and there's two sides, two lines. You scoop into the pack, you pass the pack to the next person, they scoop their bit in, pass it down the line, they scoop their bit in until you get to the end. When you get to the end, it's sealed up and it's put in a box, and it's all ready to be sent overseas to somebody in need of an emergency nutritious pack of food. Now, when is all this happening? You better write this down or put it in your brain, put it in your calendar. Wednesday evening, the 3rd of April, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the RMIT University in Swanston Street, Melbourne, and that has been provided to us by Carol Bond, who's on our board. After that, there will be an opportunity to get together for a nice dinner in the ground floor. So you won't have to go outside, you just go from the 2nd or 3rd floor down to the ground floor restaurant, and we have dinner there. So please do join us for this wonderful opportunity. And as I said, 6 to 7 p.m., 3rd of April, RMIT University. So I look forward to seeing all of you then. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mary, and yet another opportunity to roll up our sleeves. Just by way of reflection, at one of our recent Batman cluster meetings, a lot of the other clubs were fascinated that we're able to pull off big events, lunch events, rolling up our sleeves events, sorts of activities which Richard and his group are doing. And that really is a testament to the diversity of our activities as a club. So just briefly, 2 items on notices. Regionalisation. We've received correspondence from District calling for nominations for Rotarians to join leadership for regionalisation for the position of Rotary Community Leader. So the clubs within the District have been separated into clubs of groups of about 10, and they're looking for a community leader to represent those group of 10. So the Rotary Community Leader will lead club engagement on behalf of the Regional Council in support of clubs fulfilling their purpose of providing service to others and promoting peace and goodwill in local, regional and international communities. If you're interested to nominate, expressions of interest have to be received by our office on the 26th of March, and then 2 days later by District on the 28th at midnight. So the ideal candidate for something like this is somebody who understands Rotary, has been around for many years, understands where the skeletons are, processes for funding, relationships within District, and I think within our club we certainly have a number of individuals who fit that bill. Further information, please come to the Rotary office, and of course feel free to contact me as well. The other item is the Young Achiever Awards. Final reminder that the nominations close on the 30th of March, just over a week away. Should you have any thoughts of a candidate or know of organisations within which there are some fabulous candidates, please feel free to nominate. Again, more information we've got at the office as well. So now it's my pleasure to call on our Chair of the Day, Bernie McIntosh, to take over the meeting and introduce our kaleidoscope of speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, President Chris. Continuing a theme, we are asking some members to come up today to talk about a couple of projects, and then also Amit is going to talk about his experiences as being a new member. So without further ado, given the time where we're at, I'm going to introduce Robert Fisher and Chris Wong. They're going to be talking about Every Child Deserves a Future, I believe.
Thanks, Bernie. Now, we're talking about the project, the International Project Rotary, Give Every Child a Future, which is a great project and was a bit different. So I'm going to give some background on the project, and then Rob will give more detail on the projects. So in 2015, the club put together an R100 committee to look at ways we could celebrate the centenary of Rotary in Australia. Much consideration was given to developing special centenary projects, amongst other things. It was agreed that we needed to have a visionary international project, but we also realised that Rotary International chartered 3 other clubs in 1921 who would also be celebrating their centenary, the clubs being Sydney, Wellington and Auckland. It was decided that we should reach out to these 3 clubs and create an Australasian project, so Rob Fisher and myself were given the responsibility to put this together. We individually visited Sydney, Wellington and Auckland and received a very, very positive response. We established a steering committee, which I chaired, and for the next 1.5 years we met regularly, deciding upon important issues such as the focus, which obviously was the Pacific area because all of us face the Pacific, and also how do we go about putting a project together. So what we did was for that period, each club went away and searched a project, and in May of 2017 in Wellington, a decision had to be made. Melbourne's project was Eliminate Dengue Fever. Sydney's project was a vaccination program in the Pacific. Auckland's project was disaster relief using mobile containers. And Wellington's project was potable water. We all voted on the best project, and it was Sydney who was successful. Now, the very first meeting of the then formed supervisory committee took place in our Rotary office on the 31st of July 2017. We also had a representative from UNICEF, being one from Australia and one from New Zealand, and each Rotary Club having 2 representatives. Positions were decided and other administrative matters attended to. For example, what do we call a project? And also another example being the MOU between Rotary and UNICEF. This project has been a unique opportunity and probably the first of its kind to start a major project with a value of US dollars 3.9 million, with 4 clubs cooperating equally internationally. And that's a really important point, that 4 clubs actually cooperated equally internationally. So now I'd like to hand over to Rob, who will give you a bit more background and the current status of the project.
Thanks very much, Chris. So this was the plan, to protect some 100,000 children and young adult girls across 9 Pacific Island nations from 3 life-threatening diseases, being diarrhea, pneumonia, and cervical cancer. The role of Rotary in the partnership with UNICEF was to use a supervisory committee of Rotarians with good networks to enable major fundraising around Australia and New Zealand, both within the Rotary organization and beyond. But I think in all honesty, we did wonder how on earth 4 clubs could potentially raise $4 million US dollars. Nevertheless, onwards we went. UNICEF already had a relationship with Rotary through the End Polio campaign. Also in Fiji, UNICEF had successfully run a similar program to the one we were proposing for the smaller Pacific Islands. So with UNICEF's help, we would firstly be able to procure equipment and vaccines. Secondly, work with governments to get their long-term commitments so the program would be sustainable. And thirdly, implement the immunization project itself. Well, late last year, after 5 years' effort, we reached our funding target, a fantastic achievement for all concerned. 25% came from Rotarians, Rotary clubs, and individuals in Australia and New Zealand, 25% from the Rotary Foundation, 22% from the Australian government, 21% from Rotary districts in Australia and New Zealand, and 7% from private foundations. Working with the Rotary Foundation was something of a nightmare for our project director, who had to write up and submit some 23 funding proposal applications through a rather bureaucratic process. Nevertheless, onwards we went. Liaising with UNICEF has also been challenging in practice because, of course, they're a mighty global organization working in multiple areas of need. We've had to secure undertakings from all 9 governments to run the immunization program long term, then educate and train health officials and workers. COVID-19 did present an impact, though in some ways it worked in our favor, because the pandemic forced governments to be organized to put into effect immunization programs, and we were able to ride on the back of that. Implementation of the vaccines on the ground by UNICEF is well underway, though because of the remoteness of many communities, this is taking a long time to execute. Where are we now? To date, we have educated more than half the healthcare workers involved and completed more than 1/3 of the total targeted immunizations. This is one of the largest ever projects undertaken by Rotarians from 4 clubs, remember, supported by the Rotary Foundation. So when we reach completion, probably around the end of next year, there will be a final evaluation of the project for the benefit of all parties. So our thanks to those in Rotary Melbourne who have contributed in any way whatsoever, and we have contributed as a club quite substantially in 6 figures to this amazing project. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Chris. I was doing some extensive research in preparation for the role, and I read that 1 in 18 children aged under 5 pass away in the Pacific Islands. 1 in 18. In Australia, it's 1 in 250. So that is a significant gap that these guys are helping to reduce. So thank you very much for your efforts. I think it's wonderful. Thank you. Next up to the plate, Amit Gill joined the club probably 12 months or so ago. I am especially delighted to welcome Amit to join me here at the podium, because he is relieving me of the directorship of membership for the coming new year, and delighted for a couple of reasons, but primarily it's wonderful to see new members come on board to provide who provide energy to the club and who are prepared to roll their sleeves up and get involved. So thank you, Amit, and you're going to give us a few minutes on your experiences with the club to date.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was asked to give you a brief as to my experience joining and then after I joined. But I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the things that really win me over about Rotary Melbourne. And the thing that really wins me over is your ability to get involved with service beyond self is worth its weight in gold. But what value does that have if we shrink, as we're continuing to do, as is happening around the world? So on that basis, I decided it's better for me to contribute towards Rotary Melbourne growing, and therefore we'll have more manpower and more efforts and energy going into service beyond self. So really, I feel my job is to help rejuvenate this amazing club. And the next couple of minutes I'm going to spend just talking about that, because the essence is putting a little bit of fun in fundraising. And I think that's really important. Rotary is service above self, but there's no reason why we can't have a little bit of fun and laughter on the way. So it's a commendable motto that many of our members exemplify through the work they put in and the way they take things on, as you've already seen and heard. But we need more. Now, there's a number of different ways that Bernie and I have been talking about leading that forward, but the easiest way is to recognize that dedicated recruitment and retention doesn't have to be hard. There's enough people here, and if they recognize the value that new members can do to pumping in fresh blood into the club, bringing diversity, oh, sorry, maybe it's my voice, and energy and innovative ideas, then the existing membership plays a major role to being the bedrock, and I'll explain that a bit more. To bring in new talent, each of us must take a responsibility, and I would like to challenge you to look around your networks and your community to identify 3 candidates within a year, bringing them in with the intention that hopefully they're going to join and they can add immense value to the club whilst they benefit from what Rotary Club at Melbourne can give them. So, as seasoned Rotarians, I recognize that you tend to prioritize fellowship, tradition, and the rich legacy of this club. That doesn't need to change. However, the young professionals we're looking at, typically between 30 to 40, there's 800,000 of them in Melbourne alone. So to get 50 out of that is not really a big ask. But what is a problem is they look for different things. They want networking opportunities, not a problem for us. Leadership development, we can tweak and develop on that. Hands-on volunteering, exactly what we offer. And understanding the direct impact of their efforts. Now, you can do that in the committees, but I think today, to listen to our colleagues tell you what they did and how they did it is useful, because when I first joined and I saw 3 pages of initiatives and projects that this club was doing, that was amazing. But what did it achieve? I don't know. All I know is the intentions were great, the people are good, and therefore there should be something there that's tangible. So, to appeal to this new generation, I suggest we need to adapt by increasing our digital presence, offering a variety of membership types, which I believe has been investigated, but even I don't know what they are, hosting a number of casual networking and volunteer events, better showcasing the impact we've had on our communities with the regular sharing of metrics, and selectively modernizing some traditional formats. Change can't be more of the same, it has to be something slightly different. I know change can be difficult, but we cannot let our club stagnate. If we want to uphold Rotary's higher calling of service above self, then the more active the new members are that personify that principle, the greater the positive change will be that we can create. We have an obligation and we have an opportunity to rejuvenate this club. Let's fuel it with new energy while honoring its roots. But it requires effort from all of us, open minds, and a commitment to core values. I know we can do it, and Rotary will be better for it, as will the communities we serve. That way we're sparking joy and purpose into everyday life for the people that we connect with. I hope you can see that, and I want to thank you for the opportunity of sharing my thoughts with you.
Thanks, Amit, that's wonderful. Now, someone else who has recently joined the club and has rolled the sleeves up and is getting involved, Tony Bertoni has joined the Arts Committee and is going to discuss an emerging project from SAME. Thanks, Tony.
So, I was the speaker you were looking forward to because it's all over when I finish. What is this? This is a new idea that has emerged a lot from Karen Kim and David Cram, both of whom are unable to be here today, to really get involved in a direct way in the arts by identifying young people of talent and potential who, with our support, can make a major contribution. I've had a very brief time with Rotary, but I've had over 20 years with David Cram, for example, and we do a number of projects, and one of those is an opera scholarship. We send singers to Europe and launch them on their careers, and we've sent over 20 young Australians to Europe. Many of them now are internationally known and are performing at the great opera houses. More than half of them came from families that were in areas of Melbourne where you would think, well, there aren't many opportunities for people to go into opera, of all things. No one in the household knew anything about music. These were people that were, in effect, discovered. And so that's the concept here. I'll just go to the next slide, thanks, Joe. So the purpose is really to identify and support emerging talent which would otherwise be overlooked or discouraged. And there are a couple of ways of doing this. Some of it's training, some of it may be a world-class instrument that they can use and develop on. We need to tease that out, but the idea is to identify what is going to leverage the opportunity there for that person the best, and then get behind it. It could be a grant or in-kind funding, or it could be a leasing of a musical instrument. Again, it will depend on the person who's chosen. The expectations are high. We're not doing this just to help somebody who thinks they want to be a musician and mucks around with it for a few years and then gives it away. We want to identify people who are going to have a reputation in Australia as world class. And we heard about Ben Northey recently. Again, from a regional location, not a big family background in music, he's now a world class conductor. And that's the sort of thing that we've got in mind. So we're looking for people to do advanced training. We're looking for them to develop and have measurable achievement artistically, to have better professional opportunities, and also for the local community and the communities in general in Victoria to see that the arts is an important thing that we need to be doing. And here's an example of something that's happened that's amazing. Here's a person that's been discovered, and Rotary is going to be part of that. The award criteria, these again will flesh out a little bit, but we want somebody who's actively engaged in the music community. We're looking at people who have an issue around hardship or some sort of barriers that we can remove in some way. We need good musical referees, professionals, and the Australian citizenship. The award presentation, again, this becomes a great opportunity for the club, and we do this with the Opera Awards. There's a whole lot of people who participate in these things on the way through, so there'll be semi-finalists. There may be opportunities to hear a number of young people, emerging musicians, in a semi-final process or some sort of concert or recital process. There'll be then subsequently, if this gets legs and keeps going, to make this an event each year where we see the award, but we also have some of the previous awardees come back and perform for us and let us know how they're going, so it starts to get legs. So it's a very early stage concept. It has, I'm biased, it has a lot of merit. It does wonderful things for people who otherwise will go through life and will never know that we let a good one get away. And it's the idea of not letting a good one get away. So thank you.
Thanks, Tony. That does indeed sound like it has some merit. Sadly, we're out of time, so we won't have a chance to take any questions today. I'd like to thank Richard and congratulate Richard for his award and also the work that you continue to do within the club. Thank you to Mary for obviously what you've done within the club, but also ongoing with that opportunity to volunteer in the next couple of weeks. I think that's terrific. Thank you to Chris and to Robert for your efforts with that significant project. Thank you to Amit for getting involved, well, joining the club for a start, but also offering to get involved. That's appreciated. And Tony as well for this emerging project, which does indeed offer an opportunity for someone who may not otherwise receive it. Thanks to all our visitors and guests for attending. Thanks to MC Pete Davis and to Barbara for the reflection, and our lunch setup and reception teams. Thank you very much. Reminder, next week we have Specialist Financial Advisor Clementine Lucas, Head of Philanthropy at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management Australia. Please join us here at number 35 and be updated and informed on best practices.